Marie Curran again. So Anne Marie is a Disability Outreach Coordinator and Project Officer with the University of Galway. And in her role, she links with external organisations, parents, guardians, who may have questions regarding supports and entry routes for students with disabilities. And thanks a million, Anne Marie, for being here again tonight with us and for talking tonight around completing the CAO application.
Thank you, Murat and Fionnuala. It's great to be with you, and apologies in advance. My voice isn't great this evening, but we'll muddle through. And if there is any question, please feel free to contact me, or even push in the chat, or get on to Murat or Fionnuala afterwards, and they can contact me afterwards, and we can link in again. There's no problem. So I'm just going to run through a quick presentation of completing the DARE application form. So just bear with me here now. Okay, so first of all, now, when we met back in December, we spoke about what the DARE route is. So the DARE, this is the Disability Access Route to Education.
Sorry, Anne Marie, we can't see your screen.
Oh, apologies. Can you see it now?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
If you want to put it on, yeah, perfect.
Okay. So apologies about that. I'm still asleep this evening. But so as we mentioned, the DARE is the Disability Access Route to Education. So this is part of the CAO application. So so the DARE would offer reduced points to school leavers who, as a result of having a disability, have experienced educational challenges in secondary school. So it's an alternative admissions route for the Leaving Cert. So it would be, as I mentioned, it is part of your CAO application, just that it's not a supplementary form. So with the DARE, you can attend any college throughout Ireland. It's not just limited to the University in Galway or the ATU in Galway. It's also Donegal, Sligo, Toulouse, Mary I, Dublin, Waterford, MTU, and different campuses across the country. Now, again, I'll just briefly mention the HERE scheme is also another scheme, but the HERE will look at financial aspects, and any family who is socio-disadvantaged, they can also apply to the HERE scheme. So for your CAO application, so what do you have to do? So first of all, you have to go to the CAO website and you'll press the apply button. So you have to put in the details in this section, such as your name, address, date of birth, email address. Now, be careful with your email address. Make sure it is an email address that you might have gotten at school or that you have regular access to, because the CAO, the email address that you will put down, the CAO will be contacting you. So just to make sure that you know and you are clear on the email address that you put on that application form. So you have to put in all relevant exemptions and qualifications, for example, language exemption. So if you're entitled, or if you've applied for a language exemption, this will be noted on the CAO application also. It is a separate application, but it goes in on the CAO application. So once you have the first part of the application done, you will receive a CAO number. And the majority of school stuff and career guidance teachers will assist students as well with this part of the application. So this is just the very, very beginning of the application. So with step 2 of the application, you have to provide qualification assessment details. So this just means that you're sitting your Leaving Cert, and that's the box that you will tick. So if there is students already who've done their Leaving Cert, and there's another box there, it'll actually specify on the box what you're applying, but you just tick on that box that you are sitting your Leaving Cert, and they just want you to tick that box. And also there's another box on it, confirm if you're applying for a student grant. So this is if you're applying for the SUSI grant, you just tick the box again. Now, again, it is separate application, but just all this has to go on this form. So that's just the very beginning of the form. So this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see my screen. So this is when you're applying for the CAO initially. You will actually, so your personal details there, surname, other names, title, date of birth. So they're the kind of details that has to go in on it. So that information has to be entered on the application initially. So it's straightforward enough, just that there's a lot of questions on it. So it's good to have at least two people sitting beside one another when you're filling out the application, because as you're typing in and you're scrolling down the form, you might easily miss a question. So just to make sure that every box has been completed. So then that's the other part, next part of the page. It's going to ask you how you're going to pay and put in your card details, and then how you want to pay. So that's the first part of the application. So that's the initial part that you're registering with the CAO, and just to get your CAO number and to start your CAO application. So then you'll get another box then. So once you have logged in, then you are going to get an email then from the CAO. So that's why you need that email address that you would have entered initially, because on that email address, that's what the CAO is going to use to get in contact with you. Now you're going to get an email from the CAO with a login details on that. So you need to keep those login details and keep them safe. Even if you just write them on a piece of paper and stick them on a press or inside the press, that you will have them, because you'll be going back and back when you're checking your application or the status of your application. You will be logging into this application form, and that's what you're going to be logging into. So the CAO, my application. So even if you just log on to cao.ie and under my application, that's where you have to look. So it's going to ask you for your application number, which you will have received in that email. And then it'll ask you a password. Now you'll be asked to set up that password yourself. So just to make sure that you note anything you put in, email address, password, any dates or numbers, write all these down on a sheet of paper. Just hold on to them details, because you will need them again, and just to keep them in a safe and secure place, so somewhere that you know you can access them at any stage. So then we're looking at the DARE. So the first part we looked at was the original CAO application. So that's the first part. It doesn't matter whether you're applying for the DARE scheme or the HERE scheme, you're applying to both or not. You have to complete the first part that we looked at there, the CAO application. Then there's going to be the DARE then. It's just a supplementary information, it's called. So that is part 2 basically of the application. So one of the questions, once you have filled in the initial application, like your name, details and everything, when you log in then to my application, there is going to be more questions on it. So one of the questions, do you wish to apply to the DARE scheme? And that's where you tick yes. Then it brings you into another form. So the important thing is to make sure for the first part of the application, for the CAO, you have to have applied before the 1st of February. So it's only around the corner. So review the DARE handbook, and just to make sure that you know that you are ticking every box and you'll have everything completed. So Section A, the online supplementary form. And as I mentioned there, click yes to DARE, that you wish to apply to the DARE scheme. All the information, you must start adding all your documentation before the 15th of February, and you have to have everything. That should have been the 15th of March. You have until the 15th of March to have all your documentation submitted to the CAO. So make sure the CAO first part completed by the 1st of February. You have the 15th of March. You have until the 1st of March to opt in to the DARE scheme. But the 15th of March is the close-off date. That's the deadline to have all the information submitted to the CAO. So there are 4 parts in this section. So under the supplementary form, this is the DARE form, you have section A, B, C, and D. And I'll go into these in more details in a few minutes. So section A, this is where you need to provide the information that you wish to apply to the DARE scheme. So again, it's going to be asking you probably your name, ID number, and some of the details that you already inputted on the original part of the CAO application. It is kind of like duplication, but it is looked at as a separate application. Then you have the section B, which is the educational impact statement. This has to be completed by the school. So you can download that form from accesscollege.ie. So if you go into accesscollege.ie, it gives you all the links there to download all the documentation. This has to be signed and stamped by the school. Now, for someone who has been homeschooled, you would have been registered under some school. So you would need to contact that school and go back to that school to complete the educational impact statement. Now, on that form, it'll be just asking you, there'll be a lot of questions, the types of supports you would have received at school, and any additional support or difficulties around any challenges you faced. All that will go on the educational impact statement. You must ensure that the form is signed and stamped. It needs both. It's not just good enough just to have a signature on it or a stamp. It needs both. So double check that form, go through it page by page, and make sure that every page is completed, because at the end of the day, it's your application and you want to make sure that you have the best possible chance, to get everything on this. Section D, this is where you need your evidence of disability. So again, you would have your report that you need to submit to the CAO. So if you don't have a report, what you can do is also download, or you mightn't want to put in the full report. If you don't have the report, or you don't want to send in the full report, what you can do is download evidence of disability form, and you can download this again from accesscollege.ie. Now, on this form, again, it's going to be asking, your name, CAO number, a little bit about your condition, but you need to have that signed and stamped again, and if possible, to get a business card attached from the consultant onto the evidence of disability form. It's not requiring the same amount of information, but it's still more or less the same information. A lot of the information that you would have in the report is covered in this. And once you have your evidence of disability and your educational impact statement, this is the information that needs to be posted to the CAO. So when you're posting that to the CAO, make sure you have your CAO number on the top of each page, and also send in a copy. Don't send the original, and get proof of postage, because you will not get any of them back. So make sure it's a copy that you send in. Now, section D, this is only applicable for students with dyslexia or significant literacy difficulties if you don't have a psychological assessment report. So this is part D of the DARE application. Now, if you don't have DARE ticked as one of your categories, you don't need to worry about this stage, or this section. You can just draw a line to that. You don't need to worry about that section. Okay, so just to look at these in more detail. So section A, that's filled out by you. And this is where the applicant has been asked questions about your disabilities, supports you receive in school, and how your disability has had an impact on your education, and to make sure this is completed by the 1st of March. The first question that's going to be on that section: do you wish to be considered for DARE? So you need to tick yes on that. Now, if you have already, for example, maybe someone applied for the Leaving Cert last year and had applied for the DARE scheme, but they ended up deferring the year, or they didn't take up the place of offer, whatever. If you were granted the DARE last year and you're applying for the Leaving Cert again, if you received DARE last year, that will apply for this year also. So what you can do, there will be a question on it: did you previously apply for DARE? So if this is your first time sitting the Leaving Cert, that's going to be no. But if you applied before and you see that you tick yes, or maybe you hadn't applied, you can just leave that as no. But if you applied before and you received the DARE, all you'll have to do, you'll have to put in the CAO number that you received last year, or the DARE application number you had last year. That's all you need to put in it. And then they'll match up the application, and that will carry through for another year. Question 2 will look at your primary disability. So if you have more than one disability, you can definitely put this down. And just to make sure that the one that has the greatest impact on your educational experience is ticked as number 1. So you can only take one primary, but you can have multiple secondary disabilities. So there are 2 boxes on it. One box, the primary, the other box, other disabilities. So you can put, just to make sure that you are putting them in the order that they're, your disabilities, put them in the correct order. And to make sure that you have documentation to support those categories. So, so as I mentioned, your other disabilities, that's on the question tree. So just to make sure, you can have a few things ticked on this box, but not under your primary disability. Now, on question 4, this is where supports are listed. So this will ask you the type of support you received in school. For example, extra tuition. If you had a PA, there might have been other supports. You might had, there might have been other resources that was put in place for you. Maybe you had a PA with you in school. Maybe you needed a laptop to type your exams, sit in your exams in a different venue, extra time. All that will come under this box under supports. And there will be a space in that section to fill this out. So just to make sure that you tick any supports that you received, make sure you complete them in this section. Personal statement is a big one. So this is your opportunity to tell about your experience. Explain about all the challenges and difficulties you faced. So it doesn't have to be restricted to exam performance, access to text, materials, concentration issues, meeting deadlines. You can put down here whatever you wish to put down. Now, of course, they do want to find out all about your school life and how your disability did affect your life, but they want also, don't restrict yourself to just your school well-being. Also, how this is affecting your family life outside of school. So just to make sure that you put this down. You can also put all this information down in bullet points. So just to make sure that you complete everything here. So what you can do is just do out even a draft, first of all, because the personal statement part is done online. The educational impact statement and evidence of disability, that will be posted to the CAO. The personal statement is done online. So just to make sure that you even just do out a draft in a Word document, first of all. And then when you're happy that you have everything completed or that you have done what you want to tell, then you can copy and paste it into the application and say that will then be submitted. So what they will look at that and say, but mainly what they will look at your personal statement for is when that you go on then to 3rd level, that the disability staff in the different organisations will know exactly what type of support you received, how your disability has an impact on you and how they can help you and what type of supports can be put in place. And just to make sure that they'll have all this information in advance to you starting 3rd level so that all supports can be put in place for you. Now, they will contact you once you receive a place of offer with the university. If you do accept a place in the university, the relevant university will be in contact with you and you will meet with a disability advisor so that all supports can be in place for you before you even start. So again, just a recap here on this. So Section A, that's the applicant information. Section B is the educational impact statement. Section C is evidence of disability, and Section D is the school statement. So just to make sure that you're aware, there are different parts to this application. Okay. So just to look at some of the sample forms here. So you have your sample of your evidence of disability form. So this is just an example that you can download from accesscollege.ie if you don't have your full report or you don't want to submit your full report. And then on the form beside it, Section B, is your educational impact statement. And just to make sure again that this part is signed and stamped by the school and that all boxes are completed on that. So just to recap then on the timelines. So the CAO closes on the 1st of February. So make sure you have your initial application in before the 1st of February. If you wish to be considered for DARE, you have until the 1st of March. So you can go back on the application again and take it. You have up until the 1st of March. The 15th of March, just to have all supporting documentation submitted. And you'll find out, normally it's the end of June, early July, when you find out if you are successful on the DARE outcomes. Now, if you didn't receive the DARE and you feel that you should have received the DARE, you can appeal that, but you only have a small window to appeal it. There's only 4 to 5 days to appeal that. That application is done online, but you're given, I suppose they're looking at it almost a week in total. You have about 4 to 5 days to complete the appeals application online, and you get another 2 to 3 days to submit supporting documentation. It isn't much time, but students must be aware they're normally released on the last day that their Leaving Cert has been scheduled for. So that's normally around the 25th, 26th of June. So depending on how the Department of Education has the Leaving Cert timetable for, and normally that's when they decide then what date the outcomes come. But it's normally towards around the 25th of June or so that the DARE outcomes will come out. And then if you appeal to your decision, you'll find out in early August. But we always tell students, if they didn't get the DARE scheme, if there was a reason why they didn't get it, and if they think themselves that, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have gotten it, don't let that put them off, because once they go into 3rd level, supports will be put in place for them and they will get supports. Just that what happens here is that when you get the DARE, the CEO will notify the university before you start, so that the student, they're aware that you'll be coming into college, supports needs to be put in place with you, and they'll reach out to you and they'll have supports organised before you start university. Whereas if you didn't get the DARE scheme, you will have to contact the Disability Support Service, because otherwise they won't be aware. So that's the only thing is, so that's why it's good to get in on the CEO, because they'll have all your documentation and they'll organise all the communication with the relevant disability support services. So this is the website I was referring to, www.accesscollege.ie. So that's just, if you want, there's great information on that website as well about the DARE scheme and all the relevant documentations on that you need to download. So the ones that you will be looking for is your educational impact statement, and if you need the evidence of disability form. So they'd be the forms that you'd be looking for there. They'll also give you tips as well on the personal statement as well, if you just wondering what kind of information should I be putting into the personal statement. So it's just a few helpful tips. So just to study the DARE and the HERE handbook, and to study this with your parents or guardian, and just to make sure that the online application is completed accurately. Because once the application goes in, there's no changes. You won't be able to change it then. So just to make sure when you're just to look over that application and just have at least, if there's 2 people looking over it, at least you'll make sure that the application has been completed accurately. And just to make sure that all the supporting documentation is sent in early. So don't be waiting until the beginning of March to send in the documentation. As soon as you have the documentation, get them in, and just get proof of postage and just send in good quality copies. And just anything that they ask for. If you have to appeal, if you are appealing it, any supporting documentation, just to make sure that they are submitted. But if you have primary and secondary disabilities, just to make sure that you have all the documentation submitted for this. Okay, so that's me. So thank you very much. So hopefully that was a bit useful to you. So if there's any question, I'm happy to help.
Thanks so much, Anne Marie. What I took home from that is that deadlines, just be aware of deadlines, that they're all important. That a personal statement, I often find if I had to do a personal statement for something, I almost had the bullet point at first, and it sounds like there's a whole kind of recommendations within the DARE handbook that will help guide students around what they can put in there. But if you can bullet point it first and give yourself time, isn't it, that you kind of need to review it and give a few drafts to feel that you're happy with it, and maybe get someone else to look over it as well.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
then what? Sorry.
yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah, just to, as you mentioned there, just the bullet points, it is a good tip. So at least with the bullet points, you can get more covered in there as well. So when you have it in bullet points, just keep the bullet and keep the same level going throughout, and just you'll get all the information. And just give yourself time when you're doing out the personal statement. Give yourself a bit of time, because it will take a few attempts when you're going back and over and writing out. You know, because you might start your personal statement today, and you think you have it finished, and then tomorrow you'll be saying, oh no, maybe I should have put this in as well. So, you know, maybe if you start at the personal statement, and just keep adding to it over a couple of days, just make sure that you have everything completed on that.
And is there a word count for that?
There is, I'm not exactly sure what the word count, but
there is one.
there is one, but there is another option there as well on the personal statement. Now, the personal statement is done online, and we are recommending that you do it in bullet points if possible. But you can also do, and a lot of students, we recommend that students, a lot of years that what they can do is also do out a letter in or a Word document, and to make sure they write out the personal statement in Word document. This part can be posted as well with your evidence of disability and your educational impact statement. So it's like you're kind of sending in two personal statements. Make sure you have your main points in the personal statement online, but also you can add an additional document and put this in with your evidence of disability and your educational impact statement. Make sure you have your CAO number on the top of it as well, but you can do that as well, so you'll have more information gone in on your personal statement.
Perfect, brilliant. Fionnuala, do we want to just to stop the recording so that we can maybe